What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike.
And I'm Britt.
And we're going to be talking all about budgeting today. Beginner's tips, like how to get started, and also how we're able to save over $40,000 per year. Basically just doing a budget and, a little bit of discipline and hard work involved as well. So the word budget usually has some sort of a stigma attached to it, and it's usually undeserved because, when you think of budgeting, if you're not kind of involved in the whole financial independence movement, or, you're kind of really honed in on what you're doing financially, budgeting is usually looked at, or at least it was when I was growing up, as something that you do that's kind of like, because you're really financially uptight, you're kind of a tightwad, you're greedy, or you have like a very limited income, or you're just kind of in a bad financial circumstance temporarily that you're kind of waiting to get out of, and so you don't have all that much money to spend. That is one way to look at it, but that kind of ignores all of the benefits of budgeting, and there are some huge benefits of budgeting. Budgeting will give you a visual representation of where your money is going. And if you can see where your money is going and how much you're spending and how much you're earning, you can kind of like plan out your future financially and make better informed decisions now with your money, which will lead to whatever kind of financial future you want later. So budgeting kind of like actually gives you the tools and the power to create the financial future you want, in a sense.
Everything good that has happened to us financially has come from budgeting and planning our money. We do it the first day of every month, and it lets us see where all our money is going and how we can get ahead financially.
Yeah. If you're all that familiar with Dave Ramsey and or have watched any of the debt-free screams on YouTube or his website or whatever, one of the most common themes in the people who become debt-free and do their debt-free scream on air on his radio show, one of the biggest things they say that have helped them become debt-free is budgeting. And if you watched our debt-free scream, that's true. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we said that helped us become debt-free. I think that was the first thing that we said.
Oh yeah, it was the first
budgeting.
thing.
Earl Nightingale once said that people who have goals succeed because they know where they're going. If you have a financial goal, a budget is kind of like a plan, like a roadmap. It gives you kind of like an overhead view of everything, so you can kind of strategically move the pieces in your life around to win. That's really what a budget is. So let's talk about our situation real quick. When we got married, we were $120,000 in debt, and that was a mix of student loans, car loans, a little bit on credit cards, and a budget, a written plan for our money was what largely helped us get out of that mess. That and working hard, but we'll get into that in a second. So this is our 2019 review. So if you see, at the beginning of January, we had $24,181.58. If you go down all the way to the end of December, we have $52,795.08. So the difference between the beginning of the year in 2019 and the end is $28,613.50. Well, you may be saying, well, Mike, that's not $40,000. In the middle of the year, we decided to buy a house. And in the home buying process, we deposited/invested almost $13,000 into the house. So if we hadn't had done that, that just would have been money in our pocket that we would have been able to save. I don't really see this as spending money. I see it as investing because we're putting it into our house. It's going to be there. It's not like we're spending it on food or something that's going to depreciate in value over time. We are spending it on
Generally an investment that increases over time, and it should increase at a larger rate per year than a high interest savings account. So
hopefully. That's the goal. Worst case scenario, we're just parking our money in our house. Between our cash savings and the investments we've made into our house so far, that comes out to a total of $41,288.50, which is about half of our take-home pay. So that's where I get the number of $40,000 that we're able to save. Some people are able to save even more of that. Some people can't save that much. It really just depends on how much money you're bringing in. But that's where that $40,000 number is coming from.
And it also depends on how frugal you're living too. Some people live well below their means because they just want to save a lot of money for certain goals they're trying to reach.
So let's go over here to our January budget. And if you haven't seen the video of our January budget, I'll link it up here. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. It goes in detail of everything we're spending money on this month and what we're planning to make financially. But before we get into this right now, our goals with budgeting are to give a purpose to every dollar we spend, to keep track of our spending, and then to save as much money as possible. So if every dollar that we spend has a purpose, has an intention, It's not like it's just coming into our pocket and then going out, and we don't pay attention to it at all, and we have no idea where it goes.
Which is how I used to be.
Yeah. So yeah, budgeting allows us to see what we're spending, and that way we can give a purpose to every dollar that we spend. So, for example, the amount of money we're spending on food this month is $575. Every one of those dollars is meant for food and nothing else, just food. And then for rent, $1,240. Every one of those dollars is meant for rent to be able to live where we're living. And then, the list continues. And then, we give ourselves a little bit of fun money and spending money. Some months it's more than others. This month it's a little low because we have a lot of expenses this month. The gist of it is, a budget is going to help you be intentional with your money. At least it directly represents where your money is going. This only works if you're disciplined about your spending, which if you're not disciplined, a budget's not going to help you if you're not disciplined. So so I've heard it said that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. And that's really true, because if you do a budget, that's kind of like the head knowledge part, right? That's very important, because you can see exactly what you're spending money on. You can see where your money's going. Everything has a purpose. But if you don't have the personal behavior, if you don't have the discipline or the willpower to stick to it, it's not going to work, and you're really not going to get ahead. It's taken time for Brittany and I to develop.
Basically this habit.
Yeah, the habit, the willpower, the discipline, and to be on the same page, more or less, with our finances. It's taken a while. But now that we are,
it's so much easier.
Yeah, we are on the fast track to financial success, I feel like, because of this.
And we feel so much better. Everything's improved substantially just from doing the budgets and seeing where, we even wrote down how long it was going to take us to get out of debt. We planned that far in advance when we were first paying off debt. And all of that really helped us to get over that first initial, fear, stress, that overwhelming feeling, and to be able to see just where we could go and how far we could go with it. So it was really encouraging, and it did really help a lot.
Yeah.
At first it was scary, but then it got better, and it was really good, and I'm very thankful.
Well, it was your idea initially to do the budget. I didn't want to do a budget initially. I was like, I can keep track of this all in my head. I'm a math guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really spend...
No, we've got to write it down, because I'm more visual.
Yeah. In the end, I'm super glad we did, because, it's just, like I said before, it's a visual representation of everything you're spending money on. If you know, what you're spending money on, and you see things that are just stupid, well, you can just cut those out of your life, right? And that's what we've done. And then you can become more efficient and really, hone in on your financial goals, which is what we're doing. Okay, so that's kind of how we were able to save $40,000 a year. If we were not budgeting, we wouldn't know how much we're saving.
Right. We would have blown a lot more money without any type of purpose or intention. It would have just disappeared.
So let's go over some tips if you're a beginner or haven't ever done a budget before, or just kind of learning. Let's go over some beginner tips that will help you guys out and maybe help put you on the path to financial independence, or at least a better financial life. And keep in mind, this video is more for entertainment, and it's more of a documentary on what Brittany and I are doing.
Right.
If you really need professional help, go see a CPA or tax attorney or something like that. This is just more for entertainment purposes rather than professional help. It's definitely not professional help. Okay, that out of the way. The very first thing that I would recommend doing, and really one of the first things that we did, is we got our heads right. Yeah. Because if you're surrounded by people who don't value their money, it's going to be very difficult for you to value your money. There's an old expression that goes something like, if you show me your 5 closest friends, I'll show you what you look like in a year. Something like that. It's basically true. The people you hang out with, the people who you look up to the most, they have a profound impact on your life. And I've experienced that definitely firsthand growing up, especially through high school and beyond. So you want to start surrounding yourself with people who have a positive mindset, a healthy mindset regarding money, and a healthy mindset regarding spending. It'll at least be helpful, watching motivational YouTube videos regarding all this stuff. Or just following families, couples, or even just individual people on YouTube
to give you that little bit of encouragement. I mean, that's a big reason why we're doing this, is just to help encourage you guys.
Okay, so apart from mindset, it's very important to have financial goals. Obviously, if you don't really have any financial goals, your life doesn't really have much direction regarding your money. At least that's how I look at it. So in my opinion, like, goals kind of give a direction to your life. If you think of your life as a battleship, goals would be the compass or the navigation system of the battleship. If there's no map or direction, or if the captain can't navigate through the stars or whatever, you don't know where you're going, right? You're just going to go in circles, more or less. Goals are that navigation system. Aside from getting your mind right, what you also want to do is develop some goals that are specific to your life financially. So, for example, when Brittany and I were getting out of debt, our primary goal was to get out of debt. Mm-hmm. And so our budget was very, very geared toward getting out of debt. So
yeah, the things we spent on our monthly budget were a lot less than they are right now, and we were very, very frugal. Only spent money on the bare necessities and nothing else, so we could throw as much money as we could at the debt.
So those two things don't really have to do technically with the budget itself. It has more to do with your mind and your way of thinking. Now to the technical side of things, which is probably going to be, well, it could be easier, it could be more difficult, depending on the type of person you are. But yeah, once you get your mind right, once you start surrounding yourself with positive people regarding money, once you start developing some financial goals in your life, now it's time to kind of get an account of your expenses, meaning what you're spending your money on every month, and your income. So if you notice on our budget, now our budget has been very specific towards saving money the past couple of years. That's one of the reasons why the expenses are listed first. Another reason why the expenses are listed first is because I'm self-employed and my income goes up and down, up and down, up and down. I could make a few $100s one month, I could make $6,000 another month. It varies that dramatically a lot of the time. So,
and my income's more consistent. So if you have an income like me, if you wanted to, you could put it at the top of the budget and then go down with what you're spending and then subtract it and figure out exactly how much you're spending versus how much you're making.
Okay, so let's first start with your expenses, right? Because your expenses are something you can keep track of on a daily basis. Basically what you want to do, every single penny you spend, keep track of, write down. You basically want to do a self-audit of your spending. So yeah, how much are you paying for rent? How much are you paying for your power bill, your gas bill if you have a gas bill, your water bill, trash, pest control, your rent or your mortgage, your gasoline, how much you spend on gasoline every month if you have a gas-powered car, if you drive. How much is your health insurance? How much is your auto insurance? Do you have any other insurances? I mean, you can go down the list of our budget if you want to. Mm-hmm. So we have food, rent, utilities, gasoline, health insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, phones, internet, car repairs, haircuts, gym, fun money, Brittany's money. Those two categories are more like our just kind of fun, just money to spend for whatever we want to spend it on. Mm-hmm. We have medical expenses, miscellaneous expenses, and since we're buying a house, we've dedicated $300 of our money toward putting into our house this month because we had something we wanted to do to it.
Right.
So your expenses are really going to be geared toward your life, and that's something you're really going to have to audit. You can use kind of ours as a starting point if you want, and then just keep track of it. And there are apps to help you do this. Your bank may have like a budgeting system to help you out as well. But keep track of every single cent you spend. And the objective in doing this is so you can kind of forecast every month how much you're going to spend. Because these numbers didn't come out of nowhere for us. Like, our rent is always $1,240. Our food, we try to spend no more than $575. Utilities are around $130 or so, $150.
The more specific you're able to month, it's going to be a lot easier for you for saving and paying off debt if those are your goals.
Yeah. So now that we've gotten the expense side out of things, let's take a look at your income. Mm-hmm. So on our budget, that's what comes next. And some of these things are blurred out kind of for our protection and legal reasons.
Yeah, I have a non-disclosure. So.
Yeah. Because our budget is geared towards saving money, we have all of our income less. So if you notice, the left-hand column is all of our savings and checking accounts. The column right next to that, the current column, is the amount of money we have, what we had at the beginning of the month. The projected gain would be our income. Our expenses go to the column to the right of that, and then the net, current plus gain minus expenses, goes in that column. And then at the very bottom you have, we have how much money we should expect in our savings at the end of the month. So if you're on a paycheck or you're paid regularly through like a W-2 or something like that, this is going to be fairly straightforward because all you'll have to do is just go back and look at your recent pay stubs and kind of take an average of those, and they should all be pretty similar. If you're self-employed like I am, or you do, some sort of contract work, or you're paid through a 1099 or something like that, then a little bit more work will be involved, but it's not going to be too much.
Yeah, generally you could take the yearly amount that you're making, if it's consistent or very close, and then just divide it by 12 for your monthly.
So if you're self-employed and already keep track of your profit loss statements, I would just kind of go back through your profit loss statements through the last 2 or 3 years, and then just take an average of all those, and then maybe project if you think this year's going to be a larger year, or this year's not going to be as exciting financially. Like, you're going to know your business more than anybody else. So get kind of a number, get an average of the past few years, and then divide that by 12. That's going to be your income. And if you're married, just combine things. Our opinion is that if you're married, you should combine your finances. I don't really see because wedding vows basically pledge all of your worldly goods to each other for better or worse, richer or poorer. And so we've combined our finances, and we have every single one of these bank accounts both of us have access to.
Right. And
we do our budgets together. Obviously it's your life, you can do whatever you want, but that's just kind of what we do. Okay, so now we have the spending part. Now we have the income part. So here's what you do. You need to keep a running total of your spending, all of your expenses. So, your basic needs. So for example, at the top of our budget, Brittany and I kind of budget first for what we've heard of as the 4 walls. A house has 4 walls, and we get this from Dave Ramsey. So the 4 walls for us are the most important things we would spend money on. And those are basically things that keep us alive. So food, shelter, water, electricity, and gasoline to allow us to go up and down the road to work. Sometimes people include clothes if they buy clothes a lot. We don't really buy clothes, and
if we do, it's very cheap.
Yeah. And we usually budget separately for that if we need clothes, but usually we don't. That's kind of how we start a budget. The most important things that are going to keep us alive and moving so we can progress our lives and help those around us, those are the things we put first. And then everything else is kind of in order from more or less more important to least important somewhat. So you want to keep a running total of all that. And this is going to be very specific to you, which is why it's very important to audit what you're spending money on. So if your income is more than your expenses, then what's remaining is the amount of money that you can either save or do other stuff with. If your expenses, on the other hand, if they're more than your income, then there's a problem somewhere. That means you're eventually going to run out of money. And this is the case, in Brittany's and my life this month at least, is that we have a lot of expenses because we have a lot of money. We just went through a surgery and we have some medical bills to pay. And I didn't do a total here, so let me just do a total real quick. So this number right here is our income. Now, if you see our expenses up here, that's fairly larger than our income, which means we're going to be losing money. We're going to be losing a couple $1,000s this month, which hurts, but it's okay because we foresaw this coming and we're kind of prepared for it. But if your expenses are more than your income, what you need to do is go back and look at everything that you're spending money on and ask yourself, is there anything you can cut out? Is there anything that you're spending money on that you don't need to? Like maybe you have a $200 cable bill and you only watched let's say that money goes toward paying for 300 channels and you only watched 4 or 5. Again, it's your situation, everybody's situation is going to be different, but anything like that. Are you spending $100 a month on coffee at Starbucks?
Are you spending a lot going out to eat instead of staying home and cooking your food, which can save a ton of money?
The point is, and this doesn't really matter if your income is enough to offset your expenses, but if your expenses are more than your income, there's going to have to be some cutting out to do, and you have to go back and look at everything you're spending money on and ask yourself, well, what can you cut out? And that's basically the gist of budgeting. The objective is, in my opinion, and at least Brittany's and my objective with budgeting is just so we can have a visual representation of where all of our money is going. Mm-hmm. Every dollar we spend has a purpose, and therefore we can make better informed decisions of what we're spending our money on and more or less start molding the future that we want financially. We have some pretty big goals with our money in the future. So yeah, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So like, for example, the first few months that Brittany and I spent budgeting, we were terrible at it. We got fights all the time. Not fights, but like we would
argue.
There would be confusion because we thought this money was for this category, and there was like some overlap, and we ended up spending like more money than we wanted to on a category, but we didn't have that much experience auditing how much we were spending in that category every month. So be patient with yourself during the first few months of doing all this, because it's going to take some learning.
Yeah, it's going to take you a good 2 to 3 months to get it down, which it did for us.
Yeah.
And you'll get better and better at it too.
Yeah.
So.
Something I would recommend, regardless of how good you get at it, is having a miscellaneous category.
Yeah.
And that's because, at least in our lives, this like without a doubt, almost every month there seems to be something that comes up that we just did not predict. We couldn't think about. We try to do a pretty good job thinking about everything we're going to spend money on at the beginning of the month. So yeah, that's basically the basics of budgeting. I hope that's not too confusing. I hope it helps. If it is confusing, or if you have any questions, please feel free to leave us a comment in the description. We pretty much reply to everything. We would be more than happy to help clarify something. We hope this helps. We hope you've enjoyed it, got some entertainment or education out of it. That being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.